All right, we have people coming in. This is the part where I say every single webinar, I need to learn how to prep some starter music so that we're not all here just looking at our beautiful faces in absolute silence. Um, last webinar, someone sang. So I don't know if anyone wants to volunteer singing, giving us a bit of, no one's in the mood. Okay, that's cool. Thought I would ask. Okay, great. We have 57, 58 participants ongoing. So I think just in the spirit of getting things started, and just to make sure we make the most use of our time. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Sandra Waithaka. I'm program manager here at the Global Good Fund. And today's panel is all going to be about our fellowship, which is really, really exciting. And today with me, I have one current fellow of our class, and I have a few alumni to kind of have a conversation around the fellowship. I'm not going to do you guys justice, so I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and give us one or two lines about your business, and then we can kick off into questions about the fellowship. And I think I will kick it off with Kevin, if you don't mind starting.
Thank you, Sandra. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Mabolade. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Swipe Credit. So we help financial institutions and underserved small businesses grow, leveraging artificial intelligence and cash flow insights.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, I'm going to kick it off next to Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Tong. I'm co-founder and CEO of Alloy. We're a startup based out of Nepal, and we have a software that helps connect informal sector, micro, small, and medium enterprises to commercial banks to make the lending more easier. And the one thing that makes us different is we don't lend based on credit history. We lend based on micro actions. So it's really about proving that you're a great entrepreneur, that you're worthy of investment, and lending based on that.
Great. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Julio.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julio Lavalle, and I'm one of the co-founders of Conecta Pro. We're a plug-and-play digital financial experiences platform, and we generate more businesses from financial institutions, especially the ones serving the unbanked and underbanked in Latin America.
Great. Thank you, Julio. And finally, Sahar.
Hi, everyone. I'm Seher. I have a business called Bare Necessities that makes sustainable products that are designed not to land up in our oceans and landfills. We're India's first B Corp certified FMCG brand, which is really exciting, and super, super excited about creating sustainable green jobs. So we largely work with informal women and also people who've previously been waste picking into formalizing them into our workforce.
Cool. Thank you so much. I'm excited to have all of you here. Just a few kind of setting rules. So we have prepared a number of questions for our panelists to answer. However, as usual, feel free to use the Q&A box if you have any questions that we don't answer. We have an amazing GGF team member in the back end going to try and cultivate and make sure our questions are ready. And yeah, so I think we can get started and we can kick it off. So I'd love to ask my first question, which is one of my favorites, is why did you apply for the fellowship? And I think I would like to start with kind of Sahar, since you're most recently your 2020 fellow, and so you're of this class. So I'd love to hear why you applied for the fellowship.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it was so unique. I think there are so many programs out there, but everything focuses on your business. It's like, do you have your business model canvas down, and how are you going to fundraise, and how are you going to get more customers or XYZ? And this program was so, so unique because it just focused on the individual. It focused on you, the human, which I think, whenever us founders or social business entrepreneurs get asked, like, introduce yourself, you say, my name is, and then you just land up introducing the business. And I think so many of us kind of lose our sense of identity while building whatever we're trying to build. And we, try and give everything into our social business. And somehow we get kind of on the back burner, we're last on that list. So it was the most unique program out there. And it gave me some time and headspace to just have some, just cultivate and just like kind of my coaching with my emotional intelligence coach was something that was like insanely meaningful, and I just really, really appreciate the time and space to just have conversations with myself.
Love that. I love that. Thank you, Sahar. And that way I'm going to go to Julio, who you're a 2020 fellow. So that's, a bit of a difference in timeline. So why did you apply for the program, Julio?
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more with Sahar. What caught my eye was the focus in the person leading the venture that rather than the venture itself. Don't get me wrong, your venture is important and a global fund is interested in the progress of your venture, but they're also looking for people with a profound commitment to enhance their abilities, right, as leaders to drive meaningful change. But also thinking about the resources that they provide for the progress of your ventures. You guys provided us with not only coaches, leadership coaches, but also mentors with a track record in the fields that we work in, so that we can grow our business at the same time. So I think this combination was definitely key to decide to apply.
Well, thank you so much, Julio. Kevin, Tiff, if you want to add anything that you feel hasn't been emphasized, feel free.
I can piggyback off of, especially what Sahar was saying, the separating the person from the business and growing the person who's growing the business is really what resonated with me. Being a founder, you see a lot of the same kind of approaches to companies, but the person behind the business, how are they growing? And then how are they thinking about growing from an impact perspective, getting the tools and the knowledge to be able to measure our impact as we're growing from a revenue and profit perspective. It's very, very unique to this program.
Love that. Thank you. And actually, you kind of answered my second question, which was the program focus on you or the business. In that way, I'd love to then go to the Global Good Fund Fellowship is highly competitive. We get over, 3,000 applicants, at least in the last 2 to 3 years, and we select about 10 to 15. So I'd love to ask Tiffany, if you want to start, why do you believe that you were selected for the Global Good Fund Fellowship, and what are the common traits you see among your fellow alumni and classmates and cohort mates?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everyone about the focus on the person. And what really attracted me was that I was kind of at the end of my rope, to be honest. When I applied, I was trying the same things, right? We were growing our team and trying the same things, and it wasn't working quite the way I wanted. And I think this fellowship attracted me because it seemed like it had a really different approach. And I remember saying in the interview that I was kind of desperate. And I think that's why I was selected, to be honest, because there was a vulnerability, right? And I think that's what I found again and again in the cohorts and everyone I matched that. And when you meet in person, it's just a different feeling. It's so warm and it's so vulnerable, and everyone's curious about everyone else and willing to help everyone else. And that, honestly, I have not found anywhere else.
Oh, lovely to hear. I like this, Tiffany. I'd love to hear from anyone else who'd like to answer why you think you were selected for this particular fellowship and what you found is the common traits among your fellow cohort members. I think in particular, Julio, I'd love to hear from you because you never got to attend an in-person summit until this year. And, obviously you've been part of the community for about 4 years already. I'd love to hear from you kind of like what you found both virtually and in person, kind of brought you together with everyone else as a member of the Global Good Fund community.
Yeah, definitely. So many resources. I guess at the beginning it was remote, right? Because I was in the middle of the pandemic, so it was hard to meet in person. I think the opportunity going aside the program, the opportunity to connect with the Global Good Fund allies and the network itself, for example, to prove our investment theories, right, for the company that we ended up selling last year. That was one of the key things that I think was a great resource for us from the Global Good Fund. That is one. Also the opportunity to give back and also develop our mentor muscle in a way that we are now part of the evaluations of future fellows as well. So hearing the new ideas, hearing the new fellows and the next generation to come is also an important thing for me that helped me build on my leadership skills as well.
Love that. I love the give back. I love the question around, or the point around like just the community and how that's been able to help you move from one entity to another, as well as having that strength of community. I'd love anyone else to kind of add, what do you think you've seen that's common among, the traits of the Global Good Fund community? We've got the vulnerability, we've got the give back, just anything else that anyone wants to add.
I would say,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say the sense of resilience. I think, as entrepreneurs, you have a lot of high highs, lots of low lows. And I think something that was this kind of common theme that came up, and this thing that I noticed in everyone is that all the fellows I know are like super resilient people, and have been through all of that. So I think that was a huge thing that stood out to me. And of course, this like, commitment to create social change, to make this world some way better than the way we found it. And I think that that commitment was also huge.
Love that. Kevin, please.
So she took the words right out of my mouth. It's that commitment to social change, driven from a profit and a revenue perspective, which is refreshing. I think especially post COVID-19, and we're currently in a recession. So there's a lot of pain in the market, but from an entrepreneur's perspective, where there's pain, there's profit. So you can do both. You can do good business and you can do good for people. And I feel like the Global Good Fund fund really encapsulates that for the founders that are within the program.
I love that. We have a question before we go to our official questions about being a nonprofit. Just for everyone to know, and this is from the fellowship perspective, we do accept both nonprofits and for-profits. We are very much focused on nonprofits that have mixed models. So we definitely think that, like Kevin says, there's profit to be made and good to be done in the same way. That's not to mean that we don't support nonprofits. We just love you to have a track record or a thought process for how you can continue to create your impact and at the same time build revenue and sustainability in the long term. So for nonprofit users, I'd say the program is pretty much the same. You're connected with people to give you ideas on business models and on how to mix it up, on how to change it up, on how to think through things. And that's just me answering the question that was in the chat. If anyone else wants to add, I know you're all technically based for-profit companies, but I've heard from our nonprofit entrepreneurs as well that it's been helpful to have different minds to think through things when you're trying to find out how to be sustainable altogether. Anyone else want to add anything before I go to the next question? Yeah? Okay, cool, great. Okay, so the next question is, what do you think fellows can do during their time to make the most of the program? And I'd love to start with, Tiffany, Kevin, you guys are the same class. So I'll start with you, Tiffany, and just like what you think people can do to make the most of their time. And then Kevin, and then I'd love to hear from Julio, who's an older class. And Sahar, obviously, we'd love to hear from you as well, since you're in it right now. But Tiff, if you wanted to kick us off, it'd be great.
Yeah, I think a very unique part of the fellowship is there is kind of these free funds in a way that is for you to personally develop, right? And honestly, for myself, it was the first time ever I had that luxury. So actually, initially thinking about how to use those funds was so hard for me. I didn't really have an idea, and I kept wanting to use it on my company instead of myself. And Sandra very kindly reminded me many times. But I really think that is a key part, actually, and to really, even if it's not through this fellowship, right? But personally, how do you want to develop? And if you did have some money in the company, how would you like to use that to develop you personally? Because really, you developing as a leader is going to be in parallel with your company developing. And I've realized that through the fellowship at the end, I'm just like, wow, I cannot believe how much I have changed. And because of that, how different I feel about my company. And I really also feel the company transforming because of that. So think about, with or without the fellowship, what you would do for personal development.
I love that. Kevin.
So for me, the mentorship component of the fellowship is what I would say, really, spend a lot of time with your mentors, and they want to help you fill in the gaps in the areas where you're weakest within your organization. So to give you an example, both of my mentors, Kevin Lamb and Julia Beardwood, Kevin is phenomenal from as we're growing our organization, how do we manage the internal, the employees that we bring on? How are we making sure that they're comfortable from a mental health perspective, that they're in the right seat? As a leader, you're on the forefront, constantly growing the organization, but you also have to be mindful of the emotions of your peers, of your co-founders, of the people that you bring on board. So I don't have a lot of experience in that. Working with Kevin has given me a great roadmap to build on top of. And then Julia, I love Julia. She's amazing from a branding perspective, from a marketing and sales perspective. That's how you attract your customer. That's how they buy into your storytelling. And she's helped me with a framework that I use today pretty much in all of our outbound advertising. So the mentorship component, I would definitely say really, really, really lean into that to help grow your weak areas within your organization and as a leader.
I love that. Thank you so much, Kevin. Shout out to Julia and Kevin Lamb. Yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
Julia.
I love it. Julia, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what do you think? Obviously, your fellowship was a very different experience, but even from then, I think I don't like to assume, but I like to think you've gotten a lot of amazing kind of gifts from it. What do you think fellows can do to make the most out of their fellowship?
Definitely, Sandra. Yeah, because it was different, I also got to experience other type of resources, right? So I will definitely say, I agree with Tiffany and Kevin, but also the network, right? So you might think that the Global Good Fund is a small organization. However, it has so many contacts, so many connections, not only across the US, but across the world, actually. And now that I just came back from the summit a couple of weeks ago, you get to realize that all the connections and all the network of people. And I was able to make the most of that network in a sense, because we were virtual back then. But then again, in terms of investment opportunities, in terms of connecting to mentors, the Global Good Fund was key for that. So I would say don't overestimate a global good fund. It's actually powerful in that sense.
I like that. We are global. When we say global in the true sense, we are global. I love that. Sahar, I'd love to hear from you, and then I'm gonna hop into our Q&A for a couple of questions. But how do you think you're making the most out of your fellowship? Obviously, you're at the halfway point.
Yeah, for sure. I think just being in a room of people who are smarter than me, kinder than me, know more than me, it was so humbling. And I just feel like I learned so much from my peers and everyone at the summit. I think I was at a point where I was also like really underconfident about fundraising, and you go through so many pitches and you get beat up so much. And it was so inspiring to meet Charlotte, who just had this sense of confidence and, about herself. She mentioned that someone offered to say, oh, we have these small grants for 600K if you want to apply. She's like, that's really nice, but actually I need 1 million. And that person wasn't even structured to give 1 million, but then they kind of thought about it and did give an organization 1 million. So I think I learned, I guess, that don't be afraid to ask. And that could be ask for help, it could be ask for funds, but just kind of, tune into yourself. I think that was kind of my biggest takeaway was ask for help, and yeah, you never know what happens.
Love that. Thank you so much, Sahar. And just to give everyone context on the other side, Sahar was attending our summit, which is our one in-person interaction that happens yearly for our cohort. And that's usually occurring in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And this year, actually, we did something exciting and we went to Baltimore, which I think Baltimore has become a fave for me. I'm just putting it out there. I'm going to go to some of our Q&A questions. I saw some interesting questions. Can the panelists share where they use the fund for personal growth? Beautiful. Would you guys love to give some examples of how you used your funds? For everyone, for clarity, we give a $10,000 fund that's to be used by the founder, and only by the founder, and not for their business, which, as Tiffany said, I remind you often, which is great. So if everyone wants to give just an example of how they use their funds for personal development, or how they're planning to use their funds for personal development, that would be great.
So I used a portion of the funding to improve my communication, as I mentioned before, being very focused on outward growth. There's a different communication style than having empathy for your co-founders and your employees. So I've been using the funding from a communication perspective to learn how to speak more empathetically, to understand where other people are coming from, to see things from their perspective. So that way I can keep my eyes on what's happening from an sales and growth perspective, but also what's the internal temperature of my team. So that way we're solid as we move forward.
Love that example, Kevin. That's an example of how funds that are used for both our personal skill building are beneficial to the business. Anyone else want to share? No pressure.
Yeah, I used I mainly in two ways. One was getting expert help in terms of understanding where my motivations are and how they're driving. Initially I was working really from a lot of place of fear, and I was working through that with help to understand it. And then I really think now it's much more from a place of curiosity, and really looking at this journey as not just one point of time in my life, but like my whole life, right? Like, how does this fit into our whole life narrative, and what does that mean? What are we doing, and how does that mean? And how what I can learn from that every day, instead of like always just thinking about the end goal, which of course we're all very goal oriented. I think everyone we met was like that, and it's very easy to be lost, only focusing on the goal, but how do we bring it back to the present moment? And I think that's super important, and learning how to delegate, I guess, but not in the traditional sense. What I learned during the summit was also delegating courage, right? Delegating these kind of softer skills, or actually even more important traits, I would say, within the team. And a lot of the funds were also used towards continuing my coaching. So the coaching that was part of the fellowship was half a year, but I decided I really wanted 6 more months. So I did that. And then part of it was also for rest, because I was horrible at taking rest. I love trekking, and I'm in a beautiful country in Nepal, which has some of the best mountains in the world. So I was able to spend some of those funds trekking and resting and thinking through how I wanted to develop myself and the company.
Love that. Love that. Okay, I'm going to pause there with that question. I'm going to go to a few more of our other questions. So we have questions about the level of business maturity, the level of organization, and I'll just answer this really quickly. We're usually looking for businesses that are established at least 2 to 3 years and at the point where they're ready to scale. While we love startups and we're fully behind in terms of supporting ideas, we want businesses that are a bit more established so that you can have a team. And so, for example, like Kevin said, you can take those skills buildings and improve your team motivation. So we're looking for businesses that are a bit more established maturity wise. I think the other question that we had was, what is the profile of a typical cohort in terms of geographic representation, gender, and for nonprofit leaders? Honestly, it varies every year. This is an example of, I think the 4 people in the room are a perfect example of like a mix of our cohort. We usually have some domestic applicants. We have some international representation, and that's from any part of the world. We are not really, I wouldn't say we're not picky. We are definitely looking for leaders who are doing amazing social impact focused work and can come from anywhere in the world altogether. And so gender representation, we like to make sure we at least have a good representation between men and women. But honestly, as long as you're doing amazing work and you are successful in what you're doing, most times 10 out of 10, we'd love to have you in the cohort. I'd say apply. Cool. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So recently, like I said, we had our 2024 summit, and Julio and Sahara, you guys were able to attend, which was really amazing. I'd love to hear from you, kind of like your highlights of that experience. We also had our board dinner on that Thursday evening, and what you liked most about that experience, just so we can share with the audience. I'd love to kick it off with Julio.
Sure, yeah, it was my first summit, and after all this time, as you were saying, I guess first was the space to interact with current and previous fellows and learn about their mentors and their challenges, and find ways to help each other, as Sahar mentioned a moment ago, but also find things in common, right? What we like as people, actually, like go running in the morning, or do some sports, or go here and there. So it was fun to connect as people as well. And the second thing that really probably impacted me the most when I came back was to interact with the team, with the Global Good Fund team, including Carrie, that is one of the co-founders, the founders of the Global Good Fund. I think you should research a little bit more about her as well, because these interactions and learning from them of what took them to put the Global Good Fund where it is right now clearly leaves you with the idea that this is a group of leaders forming leaders, right? So they have gone through this before, and they want to make you succeed. So hearing from Carrie, like having dinner or just walking around in between the presentations, it was amazing for me just to hear from the team, from you guys, and see everything that you're doing behind the curtains. So probably those 2 things were the highlights of my attendance at the Summit Center.
Love that. Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot happening with Global Good Fund behind the curtains, and I'll be happy to share more. Sahar, I'd love to hear from you, and then.
I think it was so nice because also it was a small cohort. It was 10 to 12 people. You really get to know everyone really well. I think some of my favorite sessions were manifesting. I literally still have my manifestation board. Can you see it?
Yep, your vision board, it looks beautiful. I love it.
Right there, in front of my desk. And then one of my favorite sessions was actually Julio's about how to manage my personal finances. And it was a peer-led session, a fellow-led session for other fellows. And it was really nice because again, like founders and you really put your own finances at the end. So it was really nice to have this little math formula of like, okay, how much do I need? How much should I be putting into my savings? How much should I be putting as a contingency fund, etc. I thought that was really helpful. And then again, the board dinner was really nice to switch it up because we had spent the past few days obviously largely with each other. And this was nice to kind of get a sense of what it took to build the Global Good Fund, speaking to different board members. And our tables had a good kind of mix of people from the DC area, people who had flown in for the event. So it was a good way to kind of understand the community from a deeper lens. And I would also say from a outside in perspective and an inside out perspective. I think that was really interesting conversation. And again, those were also intimate conversations because each table had about 8 people. So I think it was really, really nice to kind of see that and also see it was also an auction where a couple of things were auctioned out, and that was another way to basically fundraise for us. So we also got to see how hard the kind of GGF team works to actually make this possible for all of us to benefit from these amazing opportunities, and whether that you use it on therapy or a personal trainer or to explore gorgeous parts of Nepal. I think it's, we really got to see how that happens, and I felt like really, really grateful. So yeah, that was kind of my takeaways.
I love that, Sahar. I thought you were gonna say I was your favorite part of the auction because I was an auctioneer.
That too, that too.
It's fine. It's all right. Me and Kevin, I was auctioneer this time. They put me on the stage.
Oh, okay, you're right.
Yeah,
You did great.
I'm sure you did fine.
thanks. Appreciate it. I'd love to hear from you guys. Obviously, Kevin and Tiffany, your summit was last year, if I'm right. I'm not wrong. It was last year. The days just fly by, and your summit was a bit different. But I'd love to hear from you guys as well. Kind of like if you remember what a few of the highlights were of kind of like that experience. Obviously, I know it was last year, and so maybe it's a bit of a blur, but I'd love to hear anyway.
Tiffany, you have the floor. Oh, okay. So for me, I remember being in the hotel lobby at around like 4 a.m. in the morning, practicing my presentation and going over it, I think 16 or 17 times in order to memorize it. And then I remember being on stage and giving the presentation, the pitch of our company and whatnot. And I nailed it, right? I felt really good about it. And then afterwards, the photo that was taken, my jacket was messed up. And I'm just like, this is entrepreneurship. You work hard, you refine, you practice, you show up early, and then something always happens. But it was still a fun experience. The entertainment at the gala was very, very nice. And, just being there and cheering for your fellow class members, cohort members that have all been through their own stories and their own journeys, but we're all here together, growing and learning with Global Good Fund. So those are memories that I keep with me.
I love that. I love that. That's a good analogy too. I'm gonna steal that whole jacket. Yeah, Tiffany.
Yeah, I definitely remember how personal the experience was, like from the whole team, of the Global Good Fund team, and definitely remember the warmth from everyone and how genuinely caring. I think the whole team, like that culture within that team is so evident, and especially as Julio mentioned with Carrie also, like sometimes you see people on paper, right? Like on a website or something, and then when you meet in person, you're like, wow, actually that was, much more real than I thought. And I think what I felt the most was how everyone in the room was really like about authentic leadership. And I think it's one of those spaces, especially in the startup world, especially we're from a fintech world, you don't see that very often. And being able to see how that leadership can actually lead to success and have those role models were really amazing.
Love that. Love that. Thank you. I have a question here that I think would be interesting. Someone asks how each of you manage your time during the program. As you all know, our program is virtual and it's 12 months and we have the one in-person interaction. But I've always said, and I say this in all interviews, you take kind of what you give to this program, you know, what you're willing to give it is what you'll get out. But someone would love to learn about time management. Would anyone love to answer? Feel free. Julio,
I'm
Sahar?
happy.
Sure. Yeah, I think the beautiful thing is that you go through a diagnosis at the beginning, right? So you're gonna set based on your goals with your coaches, whether it is your business coach and your leadership coach, what are the goals you're gonna work towards, and so it's going to depend on the complexity of those goals, I would say. So I know that, Sandra, you have an estimated time that you should dedicate on a weekly basis to the program, but it's going to vary from person to person based on your goals and the time that you have and also the moment of your company, right? We have companies from different stages as well. So depending on that, if you already have a team that can manage and do operations, probably you're going to have more time. And conversely, you're going to have less if you are the one leading everything. So yeah, that's my answer.
No, that was a good answer. Anyone else want to lend to kind of how they manage their time during the program? Maybe Sahar, since you're in the program right now, love to hear.
To be honest, I don't think it's like something additional or like something that's taking away from my business. It's something that I feel is adding value to me as a human. And I feel like, because I just finished the coaching bit and now I'm kind of entering the next phase where I'll be assigned a business mentor. I feel like the coaching just added so much to my life that I was able to better show up for myself and to my team. And I was also in a stage of life where I was going through a lot of transition, and a life event actually brought up a lot of grief for me, and I had a place for that, and a place to kind of navigate those feelings that were quite complex, and I didn't know that I was actually experiencing. And it also was so nice to connect with someone who maybe wasn't in India for some reason. Maybe it was, maybe social network. You're like, it just feels like someone that was completely disconnected from your everyday being. It just created a sense of like transparency, and it was something really, really beautiful. So I'm really, really grateful, and I think it just added a lot to my life. To my emotional being, and I think because of it I'm better. So I really didn't think of it as like a task or a time commitment. I honestly I looked forward to it a lot. And I also did it in the evenings, so it was like kind of after my work day, so I wasn't feeling like, oh my gosh, this is taking away from my work hours, because I know no one's going to be like replying to my email at 8 o'clock at night in India. So it worked perfectly.
I love that. I think if anyone wants to add anything before I close off, I was just gonna say I think a big part of this program is you have to be ready to invest in yourself, and whatever that looks like, it's a lot of what you give is what you get. If you were ready to put in the time and it feels important enough to you, then definitely. And we definitely prefer or look for candidates who are at that point. And sometimes, like Tiffany said, you can be in a really desperate place where that's what you need and you haven't realized that's what you need, or you can be in a very conscious place where that's actually where you want to put in the time. Does anyone else want to add in any other points in terms of managing your time throughout the program? No, cool. We had another question. I want to make sure I'm doing a bit of both. So one of the people asked, what among the key issues for one among the key issues for fresh enterprises is management of people, and how did the program help each of the alumni in shaping their operational model? I think that's an interesting question. I'm not sure I can answer it, since I feel like, your relationship with your business mentor is probably where you ask a few more questions on the operational model point. The program itself, while we primarily support leadership development, we don't really focus on the operational model. But if there's a hitch or you run into some kind of issue, we're always happy to provide flash mentorship or connections to people who can be a bit more savvy to connect you on that end. Does anyone want to add anything on that front? Maybe someone did have support with their operational model during the summit and I have no idea.
So I'll chime in. So working with Kevin Lamb, my personal mentor, he really challenged me to, from an operational perspective, it's within your organization, it's like a family, essentially. It's like it's you're going through these trials and tribulations with your co-founders and even your employees. When you win together, you win together. If you don't, I don't say that you lose, but you learn. Either you win or you learn, right? So really putting it together, a structure of what does growth look like from a headcount perspective, the roles, but then also looking at from an emotional perspective. That's what people really don't spend a lot of time thinking about, is that there's a whole world that's happening within your team's lives. They have their own lives. So really being able to be empathetic, understanding what they're currently going through, how that might be affecting their current performance. These are things that I really wasn't thinking about before I got into the Global Good Fund, before I met Kevin Lamb, because I think, like most people on this call, we're very type A type of individuals. We're very focused on objectives and goals and winning and growth. But then we forget that very few people are wired that way in society in general. So you have to understand that, be empathetic to that, and be able to give your people, your tribe, an environment where they can grow in a way that is unique to them, and not expect yourself from other people. That's a very important thing, not to expect yourself from other people. So Kevin really widened my view when it was very much like this tunnel vision. He widened my view, and then he helped me put together a plan to grow the organization from that widened perspective.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Kevin.
Yeah.
I think that's like an important part, obviously, as part of the Global Good Fund, as people who evaluate, your applications. For those who are listening in, we are often looking for, and we get it as entrepreneurs. Your babies and your businesses are in line with each other, and sometimes that means you can't see out of it, and so we always are happy to take those who are very committed to their business and their work, but are also looking around and being like, wait, something's not working, and maybe I need outside resource or outside support and help. In general as well, someone asked the timeline for the fellowship. The fellowship is open now. We're taking applications until June 30th. That is our deadline. So please feel free to apply. I'll have Larissa on the back end in the chat, put in the link for applications. And like we've noted, and I think I haven't talked about criteria, but we're always looking for CEOs or co-founders, leaders of their organizations, executive director, whatever title that is. At least your business has been running for 2 to 3 years. You are focused on social impact. You can be for-profit and nonprofit. You have a team, which means you have more than one paid full-time person on your team. And we used to have an age criteria, but we don't have that as much. So feel free to apply whatever age you are. We are looking for people who are coachable. So this means you're ready to invest and ask deep questions to yourself, and you're ready to learn. Great. Okay, I'm going to go back to our set questions now. So alumni, and this is kind of like specific to Julio and maybe Tiff as well, and Kevin, who now you're technically alumni even after a year. What do you believe are the benefits of the Global Good Fund community? And Julio, you've already kind of touched a few of them. So if you don't have any more to add, that's totally okay. But what do you think are the benefits of being part of this community in the long run? I'd love to hear.
Well, as I was saying, with my experience, I connected with the community even before we met in person. So I think the opportunities for investment readiness for our company, the platform to engage with other fellows, as we mentioned, not only by reviewing applications, but also helping them with connections as well that we have built for our businesses. The connections to test and evaluate new businesses as well, as Zahar was mentioning, potentially a startup focused on financial education for entrepreneurs, who knows? So many ideas that can come up from those sparks of those interactions as well. Funding opportunities as well. The Global Good Fund, especially during the pandemic, supported a handful of entrepreneurs. So that was very powerful. And back to the network, what I would say is research on the website about, probably that's something I didn't do as much when I applied, but there's a lot of information on the website from the alumni and current fellows, and take a look at their companies, right? The Global Good Fund, 2 of their fellows are part of one of the unicorns in the US, Isuzu, and so that they were part of the Impact Fund as well. I think somebody mentioned asked that question, and so not only the people in this call, but there are other powerful individuals with powerful companies that are making changes around the world. So I really encourage you to research a little bit more and see where you can get, right, with the Global Good Fund.
Thank you, Julio. Kevin or Tiffany, please.
Yeah, definitely happy to jump in. Actually, really interestingly, it was from a different cohort, but there's another founder from Nepal, and our companies might be collaborating soon. We're in discussion. So, you know, there's exactly as Julio said, right? There's some really interesting and you can grow each other's impact together, and that's really amazing. And another thing I really remember was during the summit, I was just you know, wondering how to do our B2B sales better, and I asked someone who was in our sector who had a lot more experience, and he just gave me such honest answers and such good pointers that you know, you have to be really like trusting of that network to be able to share that kind of information. And I think those kinds of advices are really invaluable.
I love that. The peer-to-peer happens often, which is actually, I think, where the magic occurs. Kevin, please.
So the insights, the how-tos, you know, the learnings of, for us, it's how do we measure impact as we're growing our software company? How do we embed impact-related metrics into what we're looking to grow from a key performance indicator perspective? That was great. I think also it's a very lonely road. So when you finally find a group of like-minded individuals that are building and growing, I felt like I found a family when I joined the Global Good Fund, and I remember sitting there and feeling, wow, I feel like I belong finally. And that's a great feeling because it validates what you're doing. It gives you that moral boost, and then just seeing everyone grow and being able to reach out and then also provide value as well, and helping others within the organization. It just gives you that boost, that the wind in your sails essentially to keep going on the journey.
I love that. Love that. Great. Sahar, I hope you're picking up some things altogether. So I had a question about interview phase. So for those of you, because we often have actually a lot of repeat applicants. I don't know if anyone here was a repeat applicant. Yeah, Tiff? Okay, cool. We often have repeat applicants because, well, you know, some years it's not your year and some years it is. And so I had a question about if you got to the interview phase last year, then I'm going to go ahead and invite you to the second phase directly. That is one of the privileges of getting to the interview phase. So for those of you who are on the call who have applied and have gotten to the interview phase, and you're wondering if you should apply from phase 1, you don't need to. I will happily send you a link for phase 2. And now to explain a bit more about kind of like the semantics of our program. So we have 3 phases for recruitment, and we're currently in phase 1. And this is usually a short application and just like around your business, kind of wanting to know, you know, if you meet our criteria. And then if you're invited to the second phase, this is more of a long process, and we ask for a video submission, we ask for financials, and these in-depth questions around your leadership and business development goals. That's our second phase. If you pass our second phase, you go to our third phase, and that's usually our interview phase. And we ask you to come to an interview with either a co-founder or a team member to kind of speak on your leadership skills. And then once from there, we go and there's a executive committee that decides and selects our fellows for the class. Hopefully that answers people's questions on kind of the admin part of the fellowship program. Back to you guys. So,
I want to add something there. Actually,
yes.
I was on a webinar just like this. So the first year I got to the interview phase and didn't get it. And then I like joined the webinar, and then one of the fellows said they applied again. And that's actually why I applied again. So I really encourage everyone to try it again.
I love it. I love it. We've had people who've applied 4 times and they finally got it last year. So keep going. We do encourage it. We receive a lot of amazing applicants. And obviously we want to be able to fund all of you. We're still working on it. We'll get there. And a bit more about, I guess, the Global Good Fund ecosystem. So Julio's mentioned our impact fund. We do have an impact fund, and that's kind of a separate subsidiary, and that focuses on funding social impact ventures. Usually at this point, we're taking mostly US-based businesses. And it's primarily, I think the makeup is Black, Brown entrepreneurs and women led impact fund. We also have a consulting arm that focuses on kind of doing what we do, which is boutique leadership development for corporations, and that's our other arm. And then we have the nonprofit, which is focused on our fellowship, just adding a bit more information on that end. Cool. All right. So my next question is, and I think we've kind of talked around kind of what sets the Global Good Fund apart from other fellowship programs, but I'd love to hear from you guys, like in one word, what you really feel like this program. I know one word is a bit tough. I'm sorry. One word, what like how you describe Global Good Fund Fellowship to other entrepreneurs, and anyone can go ahead and speak.
I don't have one word, but what the biggest thing I'm thinking is putting down unnecessary burdens so that you can go farther together. So that's how I feel.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I would say like super introspective, or giving you the ability to time and space to introspect. I think was really special.
Okay. One word was clearly you guys, the instructions were just missed. It's cool. I'll let it be.
I would say increased clarity in the mission. So the word is the clarity, increased clarity
Okay.
in your mission and how you're creating impact.
Okay. For you.
I think a community, I think I've mentioned this word a lot, but a community to create even a bigger change than the one you can do by yourself.
Okay, I love it. So I've heard community, clarity, and then Tiffany, sorry, you guys had a burden, a loosening of burdens. There was a few more words in that avenue. So no, that's beautiful. That's great. I think we have a few more questions around kind of the admin. So it seems like this is more of my panel than anyone else's. But after application submission, how long does it take to receive a response? You will get a response back in terms of your application once we've completed our recruiting round. So we end on the 30th, and in 2 weeks, you'll hear back from us as to whether you've moved forward or not moved forward. We appreciate your patience. Thank you. The next question we have, as a nonprofit, most of my revenue comes from grants. Can this harm my application? No, like I said, we do accept nonprofits, and I'd say go ahead and apply. We have grant funding is a vehicle that is used in philanthropy often, so it does not harm your application. If you're still early in building your impact venture, what would you recommend? Are there still ways to work with the Global Good Fund and other sources to support and funding one should explore? Cool, that's a great answer. So if you're still kind of early in your venture, the Global Good Fund is always happy to take a look and connect with any of the entrepreneurs. I'd say there are a lot of other fellowships that definitely support early stage ventures, and we're partners with many of them. I would say Echoing Green, Halcyon. There's a lot of opportunities and other kind of fellowships that you can look at. However, we are also happy to, and this happens often, I'll have someone who's applied and has an early stage venture, and in 2 years, they apply again when their venture is a bit more established. Since I've been keeping track, I have an idea of your work. So I'd say reaching out to anyone in the team is always a good way to kind of keep us in the loop. If you're still early stage, but you want a chance for the fellowship and maybe you're not right just yet. Dope. All right, I think we're covering all the questions. Would you, Julio, Sahar, Tiffany, Kevin, like to add anything else about the fellowship before we kind of wrap up? Anything else that you haven't already said, which is pretty amazing.
It was also a blast. It was so much fun. There was, I mean, we literally had a party bus that took us to the auction, which was a blast. And I mean, we played all sorts of world music.
It was,
I mean, there was,
Kevin, just to make you feel better, there was a lot of Nigerians, so there was a lot
yes,
of Nigerian music played, but
exactly.
we
There was
also
like,
diversified it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I think, in between all of the self-growth and reflection and, maybe, all of that, there's also like a ton of good food, a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. And, also someone like people that you can always go back to. Like even this week, I was texting a fellow, being like, oh my gosh, I'm applying for this. I see you did this. Can I, get you a second set of eyes, or like, your opinion on it? So it just feels like you have this like family that you can just kind of go to. Yeah, so it was an amazing experience, and excited to give back in any way I can over the next few years to this community.
I think, Sandra, I can add something there. You mentioned, you touched a good point. Keep the Global Good Fund in the loop of your venture, even if you are not accepted this year. Of course, keep applying. But this is something, a takeaway that I would take like for every fellowship, or for every potential investor that you have, or everybody that you communicate with. Keep people in the loop, because time passes by very fast. So it's been 4 years from since my fellowship already, and it flew by. But then if you keep the global good fund in the loop, probably you increase your chances to get it next year, right? So that is something very important, Sandra, that you mentioned.
That is true. Cool. Anyone else?
Yeah, and adding to that, and I used to hate it when I'll be hearing this from other people, but you know, even the application process asks some very interesting questions, truly. So, you know, I spent a lot of time thinking about those questions, and they're about leadership, they're about how you work with your team, they're about your personalities, how open you are to change, how coachable you are. A lot of these are great questions, even for self-reflection. So, you know, maybe don't think of the application as a chore, but think of it as an opportunity also as reflection.
That is so great to hear, because it feels nice. It feels nice to hear, because we
Yes.
hear a lot of pain about how long our application is, but I also do get a lot of emails about people being grateful and thankful for the opportunity to sit and think. So it feels good to hear. We got it on video now.
Yeah, so piggybacking off of that, the application was, in terms of introspective, was very good. For those who get accepted, I would keep a journal and, just document your feelings as you're going through the cohort over the course of a year, and see how much you change as a person individually, from the beginning, from when we first start to the end. And you really see that it is a one-of-a-kind program. I'm just super grateful to be a part of it. Look, just 2 steps ahead, right? Type A, I'm telling you, type A. But yeah, it's about your personal growth, because as you grow, your company grows. Your company is a reflection of you as a founder. So that growth that you're going to receive from the Global Good Fund is going to resonate with your customers, with your community, and you really can't get this anywhere else.
We could just mic drop right there. Just end it. No, that was so beautiful, Kevin. I think you mentioned, actually, for me as program manager, one of my favorite parts of the fellowship is watching you guys transform. I remember Tiffany at the beginning. I remember you at the beginning, Kevin. I remember, and like watching you guys at the end of the year. And usually it doesn't set to like maybe that December type of period where you're like, wow, like I remember what it's like to rest. It's like I've learned these new skills. I'm so much more integrated with people. And like it's a phenomenal transition. It's my favorite thing. And I will say as well, like I think my other favorite thing was Julio, when you came back and gave sessions. Like I love the peer-to-peer led sessions, because so often I think as social entrepreneurs, while you're on this journey, you forget that the people who have a lot of your answers, while they might be mentors or coaches, they actually are people who are doing what you're doing in different places of the world. So yeah, it's phenomenal. Just a note, because I think we've been getting this question a lot. Anyone can apply from any country. We really are not the biggest barrier, I'd say, the biggest, we're working on it, is obviously we love our fellows to be speaking English, and that doesn't mean you have to write complete grammar, but to be at least colloquial for English, just because the program is delivered in English. However, some of our coaches are also from the Global South and other places, so your coaching might be able to happen in your language. However, we do ask that you speak colloquial English, but we take applications from everywhere. What else can I note about the application process? Your interview, I don't know, you guys can tell me how you felt about the interviews, because you interviewed with me. Any prep notes that you might have for anyone who gets to that phase?
Have a deck.
Okay.
Have a deck ready of your company, and the areas of growth that you're looking to explore, and how that aligns with how the Global Good Fund can help you in those regards.
I like that. That's good to know. Tiff?
Wow, I
Well,
did not have a deck. Sorry, Tiffany.
No, go ahead, Sarah.
I did not have a deck, but it was just like a conversation with Manolo, and it was so lovely. It was long and sweet, and yeah, it was. I feel like just bring yourself, like your real self, your authentic self. Entrepreneurs, we have this thing that we have this kind of like practiced authenticity, because we have to give all these talks and presentations and be like the free PR. So we get really good at that. But I think like really like keep that aside and just like bring your authentic self to it. And I think was most important.
I like a sweet spot of both. I think having the growth in your business, because sometimes, Sahar, maybe your interview, your business was beautifully developed and there were no questions. But for some individuals, if your business is lacking, there are a few more questions on that end. So have both kind of prepped, because you never know how the interview is going to go. It can be more about you, or it can be more about kind of understanding your business in the background. I'd say balance of both. Tiffany, go ahead.
Well, I guess comparing my first interview, my second one, right? I think the first one I was extremely nervous. I really wanted to get in, and yeah, I think that came through in the wrong way. And definitely in the second one I was more relaxed, and also, yeah, definitely the business was more developed at that point also, and as I said, like I was also leadership at a point where I didn't really know where else to turn, and I think all of that came together and kind of I think from a Global Good Fund's perspective was like, oh, this is at the perfect timing where we can help this person. And that's why it happened then. So it all happened in good time, basically. So that's how I feel about the interviews.
No, that's beautiful. I think I'll lend a bit more lens on the interviewing phase, and for individuals who are applying, often you might be at the point where, like Tiffany was the year before she got the fellowship, where your business is ready, but you as a leader are not in the sport in the place where you can make the most use of the program. And usually we have a good way of telling. I think it's like a natural instinct for those who are in the point of leadership support. But also maybe you are at a point where your business and you as an individual know exactly what you need. Timing is key for the fellowship. I think there are people who've applied 4 times, got in, people who applied once have got in. And it honestly varies year to year. But like I say, apply. You never know. Could be your year altogether. Never know. Great. Okay. I think if there's no more notes, then I think we can kind of wrap up. I want to say, first of all, thank you, Tiffany, Julio, Kevin, Zahir, for joining us this evening, morning, afternoon. I really, really appreciate it. I also want to say thank you to the audience, for those of you who stayed with us, listened, asked questions. It's exciting, and this is always a fun panel to have. For those of you who are social entrepreneurs, apply. Deadline is June 30th. For the fellowship, and we will not be extending. Deadline is June 30th, period. So please do apply. And yeah, thank you, everyone. You guys were phenomenal. Thanks for joining us. I love seeing your faces, so it's exciting. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, have a good evening, rest of your day. And yeah, thank you to Larissa as well for being on the back end. You're amazing. All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.